Hail to thee, my kindred. I hope you're all having a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and night, wherever and whenever you are. Looking a little different today. Femlottles here. Not on a Friday, surprisingly. Why? Because I wanted. That's why. I think the mic is slightly too high up there on the volume, but it is what it is. I'll play around with it, see what's looking good. What's looking good? I'm kind of excited. Excited as in nervous, because this is something I technically have been wanting to do for quite a while. If I'm being honest. Maybe half a year. I just never got around to it because I overthought the entire thing. So I've just decided to just go on ahead with it and be straightforward, right? Just be brave. Be brave. Head forth. Do the thing. If it does well, it does well. If it doesn't do well, it doesn't do well. If I have fun, then I have fun, right? Originally, I was going to start with the Odyssey, but then I remembered that the Odyssey technically is the latter part of the Iliad, right? Because it's this whole story comes in two bits. It's first the Iliad, and then the Odyssey. So we're going to be reading the Iliad. I don't know if this is going to be a weekly thing, a bi-weekly thing, a monthly thing. Just because I got a lot of other games and whatnot to sort of figure out. I'm also gonna probably not start reading for now. I got a couple of snacks to eat. Little coconut crackers, or I guess biscuits technically. That's what the packaging called them. Biscuits, but they don't really look like biscuits. They're more like little crackers. I got the munchies, you see? I got the munchies. Very grainy once you bite into these. I don't know why, but I don't like the way it feels on my teeth, and I can tell you that much. You know, I technically don't even know if I can do this, as in if it is allowed for me to just read a book, even though the story is a gazillion days old, you know. The story itself is old as dirt. But sometimes certain translations might have certain trademarks and this and that. I just went with the Fitzgerald translation because that's one of the older ones. Not old. I'm pretty sure it's within the last century old. I can always double check though. Actually, I probably should. Let's see. What's the fellow's name again? Robert Fitzgerald. Robert Fitzgerald. Yeah, this was within the last century. So, it should be in the clear, I believe anyhow, of whether a person can sort of just read it online to a public audience. And if not, then I shall suffer the consequences, I suppose. Nothing to be done about it by whatever point. Not that anybody's gonna notice little old me. Little old me on the internet. But yes. If I do like doing this, then I'll continue it on with the Odyssey, and we may even continue on with other stories. Mainly, most likely pertain... Like, I thought about doing this with Frankenstein, because I did mention that long ago. Like I said, this was an idea I've had for quite a while. And hey, that might be like the third book in this little series, if you want to call it that, that I decided to do. Of course, these stories, for the most part, are probably going to be old. And in some way, shape, or form, important to society, I guess. Stories of significance for the most part. I'm very sorry if you can hear me crunching. I did manage to eat some sushi today. First a sandwich, and then some sushi. It had like crab in it again, but not king crab. I think it was real crab this time around. Or, sorry, imitation crab. Not imitation crab this time around. There are some shrimp ones, and then some, I believe, salmon ones available as well. But I'm not too much of a big fan of how it tastes, how raw fish tastes. Even though I'd eat it, if it was presented to me, I would most certainly eat it. It's not my top choice so far. Just tastes a little odd to eat raw fish. My coffee's probably still piping hot, so I will not be able to drink that just yet. Still gonna blow on it a little. And I'll hold off eating on the rest of these, well, actually, no. We'll start when I finish up with these crackers. So that we can have a good, relaxing first couple of minutes. Oh. Cannot use the little sidebar because that'll scroll it a tad bit too far. I do hope you guys enjoy the little room I've set up for this. It did not take me too long. I would have thought it would have taken me longer, but I learned a little trick on how to shrink down the size of a Windows capture thing to fit whatever parameters you wish it to fit. And that's how we got this little screen right here, only showing the book itself. I do not know how long this is. I shall be frank with you. I don't know if it'll take us too long. I mean, there are plenty of books, but I imagine each book is more so a chapter or equivalent. Equivalated? I do not know the word I would use. Oh, there's more. There's a total of 24 books, which is 565 pages in total. I'm sure we'll read through it just fine. Can't be too hard. Obviously, the language is gonna be rather fantastical, I'd say. Grandiose. Grandiose would be a good word. By the way, if you are wondering what the background is, This is the. It's in Greece. I forgot the name. The National Library. A national library in Greece, I believe Athens. And I just thought it would be fitting for this particular story, since, it's mainly a Greek myth. I'm trying to remember if anything of importance really happened in the last couple of days. Anything to sort of talk about for a little bit. My mind is telling me no. Not really. I did forget to get a head start on planning the week. So I don't know what I'll do for tomorrow. I'll most likely play Daggerfall again. Outside of that, yeah, I don't know much. I'll get it done in like no time. No reason to worry about it. I got one last biscuit. One last little biscuit. Sorry about the silence that happened all of a sudden. A bunch of crumbs from the last biscuit decided to spite me and just spill all over my precious microphone. Goodness gracious, I had to. Luckily, it wasn't too hard to dust off. It was rather quick. So I'm not displeased. But hey, maybe that's a lesson learned. And now there's also a couple of things stuck in my teeth. That's like the worst part of eating anything, I'm gonna be honest. Just the way it gets stuck between your teeth. Anyhow, I'm gonna try for one singular hot sip of coffee, and then we'll head on with the story, huh? That was very tasty. And very hot. Ow. Alright. The Iliad, translated by Robert Fitzgerald, which is a kind of funny nickname. Not a nickname, last name. Why did I say nickname? I do not know. Oh, the Library of Congress cataloging publication. This is in the Library of Congress? I suppose so. You know, fun fact about the Library of Congress. There's a My Little Pony fanfiction in the Library of Congress. For those who don't know. Alright, Book 1. Quarrel, Oath, and Promise. Lines 1 through 10. Anger be now your song, immortal one. Achilles' anger, doomed and ruinous, that causes the Achaeans loss on bitter loss. And crowded brave souls unto the undergloom, leaving so many dead men carrion for dogs and birds, and the will of Zeus was done. Begin it when the two men first contending broke with one another, Agamemnon, Atreus' son, and Prince Achilles. I believe that's how you pronounce that, Achilles. So, forgive me for any mispronunciations of things that I am just too silly to know how to pronounce. Among the gods who brought this quarrel on, the son of Zeus by Leto, Agamemnon angered him, so he made a burning wind of plague raise in the army. Rank and file sickened and died for the ill their chief had done in despising a man of prayer. This priest, Crises, it might be Crises, had come down to the ships with gifts no end of ransom for his daughter. On a golden staff he carried the gods' white bands and sued for grace from the men of all Achaia. The two die most of all. Oh goodness, there's a lot more of these. Job application? No. The Iliad. Hail to the Yuki, by the way. How do you do on this fine day? Menelaus and Agamemnon and your other Achaeans under arms, the gods who hold Olympus, may they grant you plunder of Priam's town and a fair wind home, but let me have my daughter back for ransom, as you revere Apollo's son of Zeus. Tired head hurt? Oh no. Did you drink water? I'm sure you did. But did you make sure to take some medicine as well? Make sure your brain has nutrition, all that good stuff. You poor thing. You're always having a headache. Your poor little head just won't give you a little break. It will not give you a break. Then all the soldiers murmured their assent. Behave well to the priest and take the ransom. But Agamemnon would not. It went against his desire, and brutally he ordered the man away. Let me not find you here by the longships loitering this time or returning later, old man. If I do, the staff and ribbon of the gods will fail you. Give up the girl. I swear she will grow old at home in Agorus, far from her own country, working my loom and visiting my bed. Leave me in peace and go while you can in safety. Yikes. But you're gonna take, you have some paracetamol? But you're gonna take in the morning. Okay, as long as you make sure that you medicate yourself appropriately so that you may be healed. Just make sure you don't, you're not like me and you try to tough it out for no good reason. When you can simply not tough it out. It does one no good to suffer for no reason. So harsh he was, the old man feared and obeyed him, in silence trailing away, by the shore of the tumbling, clamorous, whispering sea, and he prayed and prayed again as he withdrew to the god whom silken, braided Leto bore. I do not know what that means. Oh, hear me, master of silver bow, protector of Tenedos and the holy towns, Apollo, Sminthean, if to your liking, ever in any grove I roofed a shrine or burnt thigh bones and fat upon your altar, bullock or goat flesh. Let my wish come true. Your arrow on the Danans? Your arrows on the Danans for my tears. Now, when he heard this prayer, Phoebus Apollo walked with storm in his heart from Olympus's crest, quiver and bow at his back, and the bundled arrows clanged on the sky behind as he rocked in his anger, descending like night itself. Apart from the ships, he halted and let fly, and the bowstring slammed as the silver bow sprang, roiling in thunder away. Pack animals were his target first, and dogs, but soldiers too, soon felt transfixing pain from his hard shots, and pyres burned night and day. 9 days the arrows of the god came down broadside upon the army. On the 10th, Achilles called all ranks to assembly. Hera, whose army are white as ivory, moved him to it, as she took pity on Danan's dying. Well, at least they got some help there. All being mustered, all in place and quiet, Achilles, fast in battle as a lion, rose and said, Agamemnon, now I take it the siege is broken. We are going to sail, and even so may not leave death behind. If war spares anyone, disease will take him. We might, though, ask some priest or some diviner, even some fellow good at dreamers, for dreams come down from Zeus as well. Why all this anger of the god Apollo? Maybe because you sort of were rude to his guy. You know, his guy who very much wanted his daughter back. He quarreled some. Has he some quarrel with us for a failure in vows or hecatombs? Would mutton burned or smoking goat flesh make him lift the plague? Putting the question down, he sat, and Calchas Testorides came forward, wisest by far of all who scanned the flight of birds. He knew what was, what had been, what would be. Calchas, who brought Achaeus ships to Iliad by the diviner's gift Apollo gave him, now for the benefit he said, Achilles, dear to Zeus, it is on me you call to tell you why the archer god is angry. Well, I can tell you. Are you listening? Swear by heaven that you will back me and defend me, because I fear my answer will enrage a man with power in Argos, one whose word Achaean troops obey. Poor Alcus is like, listen, you gotta back me up here. How am I? I'm doing okay. I ate a little snack prior to beginning the reading here. And, well, you're seeing how it's going. It's going quite alright. Doing a thing I wanted to do for quite some time is good. Because, you know, I like these stories. I've never read them myself, but, you know, history, mythology, all very cool. And I'm glad I'm finally getting around to it. I ate sushi again today. That was pretty cool. And I did a little bit of video gaming, which turned out to be quite fine. Won a couple of matches. Now I gotta make sure this napkin with a bunch of crumbs doesn't go all over the place. A great man in his rage is formidable for underlings, though he may keep it down. He cherishes the burning in his belly until a reckoning day. Think well if you will save me, said Achilles. Courage, tell me what you know, what you have light to know. I swear by Apollo, the Lord God to whom you pray when you uncover truth, never while I draw breath, while I have eyes to see, shall any man upon this beachhead dare lay hands on you. Not one of all the army, not Agamemnon, if it is he you mean, though he is first in rank of all Achaeans. Achaeans. I'm gonna say Achaeans from now on. The diviner then took heart and said, "No failure in hecatombs or vows is held against us. It is the man of prayer whom Agamemnon treated with contempt. He kept his daughter, spurned his gifts. For that man's sake, the archer visited grief upon us and will again relieve the Danaans of this plague. He will not until the girl who turns the eyes of men shall be restored to her own father, freely, with no demand for ransom, and until we offer up a hecatomb to Chryse. Then only can we calm him and persuade him." He finished and sat down. The son of Atreus, ruler of the great plain, Agamemnon, rose, furious. Round his heart resentment welled, and his eyes shone out like licking fire. Then, with a long and boding look at Calchas, he growled at him, "You visionary of hell, never have I had a fair play in your forecast. Calamity is all you care about, or see, no happy portents, and you bring to pass nothing agreeable. Here you stand again before the army, giving it out as an oracle the archer made them suffer because of me, because I would not take the gifts and let the girl Chryses go. I'd have her mine at home. Yes, if you like, I rate her higher than Clytemnestra, that is also a long name, Clytemnestra, my own wife. She loses nothing by comparison in beauty or womanhood, in mind or skill. For all that, I am willing now to yield her if it is best. I want the army saved and not destroyed. You must prepare, however, a prize of honor for me, and at once, that I may not be left without my portion. I, of all Argives, it is not fitting so. While every man of you looks on, my girl goes elsewhere." Prince Achilles answered him, "Lord Marshal, most insatiated of men, how can the army make you a new gift? Where is our store of booty?" "Where is our store of booty? Can you see it? Everything plundered from the towns has been distributed. Should troops turn all that in? Just let the girl go, in the god's name, now. We'll make it up to you, twice over, 3 times over. On that day Zeus gives us leave to plunder Troy behind her rings of stone." That is referring to the walls. Agamemnon answered, "Will I be gullible, brave as you are, Achilles? Take me in, would you? Try to get around me? What do you really ask? That you may keep your own winnings? I am to give up mine and sit here wanting her? Oh no, the army will award a prize to me and make sure that it measures up. Or if they do not, I will take the girl myself. Well, I will take a girl myself, your own, or Aias, or Odysseus's prize. Take her, yes, to keep. The man I visit may choke with rage. Well, let him. But this, I say, we can decide on later." Agamemnon is a piece of work so far. A piece of work. And look to it now we launch on the great sea a well-found ship and get her manned with oarsmen, load her with sacrificial beasts, and put aboard Chryses in her loveliness. My deputy, Aias, Idomeneus, or Prince Odysseus, or you, Achilles, fearsome as you are, will make the hecatomb and quiet the archer." Achilles frowned and looked at him, and then said, "You thick-skinned, shameless, greedy fool! Can any Achaean care for you or obey you after this on marshes or in battle? As for myself, when I came here to fight, I had no quarrel with Troy or Trojan spearmen. They never stole my cattle or my horses, never in the black farmland of Phthia ravished my crops. How many miles there are of shadowy mountains, foaming seas between? No, we joined for you, you insolent boar, to please you, fighting for your brother's sake and yours, to get revenge upon the Trojans. You overlooked this dogface, or don't care, and now in the end of you threaten to take my girl a prize I sweated for and the soldiers gave me. They did the good old thing they did back in the day and kidnapped this girl." If you are wondering why he's talking about a girl, I fear this is not technically the very start of this entire story, but we're already in it. And Achilles, well, a bit of a spoiler. Once his girl gets taken, He very much decides, I'm not gonna fight. And then they send good old Odysseus over. I'm pretty sure that's how the story go, if memory serves me right. Never had I plundered like your own from any Trojan stronghold battered down by the Achaeans. I have seen more action hand to hand in those assaults than you have. But when the time for sharing comes, the greater share is always yours. Worn out with battle, I carry off some trifle to my ships. Well, this time I make sail for home. Better to take now to my ships. Why linger, cheated of winnings to make wealth for you? To this the high commander made reply, Desert, if that's the way the wind blows. Will I beg you to stay on my account? I will not. Others will honor me, and Zeus, who views the wide world most of all, is hateful. No officer is hateful to my sight as you are, none given to like you to factions. As to battle rugged you are, I grant by some god's favor. Sail then in your ships, and lord it over your own battalion of myrmidons. I do not give a curse for you, or for your anger, but here is my warning. Here is warning for you. Crises being required of me by Phoebus Apollo, she will be sent back in a ship of mine, manned by my people. That done, I myself will call for Briseis at your hut, and take her, flower of young girls that she is, your prize, to show you here and now who is the stronger, and make the next man sick at heart, if any think of claiming equal place with me. A pain like grief waited on the son of Peleus, and in his shaggy chest this way and that the passion of his heart ran. Should he draw long sword from hip, stand off the rest, and kill in single combat the great son of Atreus, or hold his rage in check and give it time? And as this tumult swayed him, as he slid the big blade slowly from the sheath, Athena came to him from the sky. The white-armed goddess Hera sent her, being fond of both, concerned for both men. And Athena, stepping up behind him, visible to no one except Achilles, gripped his red gold hair. Startled, he made a half turn, and he knew her upon the instant for Athena. Terribly, her gray eyes blazed at him, and speaking softly but rapidly aside to her, he said, What now, O daughter of the god of heaven, who bears the storm cloud? Why are you here? To see the wolfishness of Agamemnon? Well, I give you my word, this time and soon, he pays for his behavior with his blood. The grey-eyed goddess Athena said to him, It was to check this killing rage I came from heaven. If you will listen, Hera sent me, being fond of both of you, concerned for both of you. Enough. Break off this combat. Stay your hand upon the sword hilt. Let him have a lashing with words instead. Tell him how things will be. Here is my promise, and it will be kept. Winnings 3 times as rich in due reason you shall have in requital for his arrogance. But hold your hand. Obey. The great runner Achilles answered, Nothing for it, goddess, but when you two immortals speak, a man complies, though his heart burst just as well. Honor the gods' will, they may honor ours. May is the big word here. The key word. They may honor you in return. It's never necessarily promised that they shall. Unless you have some kind of leverage, I suppose, technically. The gods are funny. I suppose it's more so having to do whether they feel slighted or not. They will honor you unless they feel necessarily slighted by you for whatever reason. Which you better hope you have not incidentally slighted any god, like any at all, even lesser gods, because even then, they can call daddy, whoever their daddy is, or mommy, and you're fucked, for lack of a better word. On this, he stayed his massive hand upon the silver pommel, and the blade of his great weapon slid back in the scabbard. The man had done her bidding. Off to Olympus, gaining the air, she went to join the rest, the powers of heaven in the home of Zeus. But now the son of Peleus turned to Agamemnon and lashed out at him, letting his anger ride in exaggeration. Sack of wine! What kind of insult is that? Sack of wine! You with your cur's eyes and your antelope heart. You've never had the kidney to buckle on armor among the troops or make a sortie with picket men. Oh no, that way death might lie. Safer, by God, in the middle of the army, is it not? To commandeer the prize of any man who stands up against you, leech, commander of trash. If not, I swear you never could abuse one soldier more. But here's what I say, my oath upon it by this great staff. Look, leaf or shoot, it cannot sprout again. Once lopped away from the log it left behind in the timbered hills, it cannot flower. Healed of bark and leaves, instead, Achaean officers in council take it in hand by turns. When they observed by the will of Zeus due order in debate. Let this be what I swear by then. I swear a day will come when every Achaean soldier will groan to have Achilles back. That day you shall no more prevail on me than this dry wood shall flourish, driven though you are, and though 1,000 men perish before the killer Hector. You will eat your heart out, raging with remorse for this dishonor, done by you to the bravest of Achaeans. Wait, did the whole killer 1,000 men perish before the killer Hector? Okay. That line confused me a little bit. It's cool. It's fine. He hurled the staff, stunned with golden nails, before him on the ground. Then down he sat, and fury filled Agamemnon, looking across at him. But for the sake of both men, Nestros arose, the Pylian's orator, eloquent and clear. Argument sweeter than honey rolled from his tongue. By now he had outlived 2 generations of mortal men, his own and the one after, in Pylus land, and still ruled in the third. In kind reproof he said, "A black day this. Bitter distress comes this way to Achaia. How happy Priam and Priam's sons would be, and all the Trojans, wild with joy, if they got wind of all these fighting words between you, foremost in council as you are, foremost in battle. Give me your attention, both are younger men than I, and in my time men who were even greater have I known, and none of them disdained me. Men like those I have not seen again, nor shall. Perithus the Lord Marshal Dryas, Canis Exadios, Polyphemus, Theseus, Aegeus' son, a man like the immortal gods. I speak of champions among men of earth, who fought with champions, with wild things of the mountains, great centaurs whom they broke and overpowered. Among these men I say I had my place when I sailed out of Pylus, my far country, because they called for me. I fought for my own hand among them. Not one man alive upon earth could stand against them. And I repeat, they listened to my reasoning, took my advice. Well then, you take it too. It is far better so. Lord Agamemnon, do not deprive him of the girl. Renounce her. The army had allotted her to him. Achilles, for your part, do not defy your king and captain. No one vies in honor with him who holds authority from Zeus. You have more prowess, for a goddess bore you. His power over men surpasses yours. But Agamemnon, let your anger cool. I beg you to relent, knowing Achilles a sea wall of Achaeans in the black waves of war. Basically, he's telling them, calm the hell down. Let him keep his girl. You shell out, Achilles, because you may have been born of a goddess, but this guy, Agamemnon, your captain, kinda has a bit of a Zeus back in him. And that, he commands the men, so chill out. Lord Agamemnon answered, all you say is fairly said, sir, but this man's ambition, remember, is to lead, to lord it over everyone, hold power over everyone, give orders to the rest of us. Well, one will never take his orders. If the gods who live forever made a spearman of him, well, have they put insults on his lips as well? Achilles interrupted. What a poltroon. Poltroon? I don't know what that word means. What are we reading? The Iliad. Which I'm not sure if it's technically the first. I'm pretty sure the Iliad comes before, obviously, the Odyssey, because the Odyssey is Odysseus' story of getting back home, essentially. But I don't know if there's a story prior to the Iliad, because it kind of feels like there's some stuff that I'm missing here. But hey, it is what it is. How are you doing, by the way, Wiki? How are you doing? And what a poltroon. How lily-livered I should be called if I knuckle under to all you do or say. Give your commands to someone else, not me. And one more thing I have to tell you. Think it over. This time for the girl, I will not wrangle in arms with you or anyone, though I am robbed of what was given me. But as for any other thing I have alongside my black ship, you shall not take it against my will. Try it. Hear this, everyone. That instant your hot blood that instant your hot blood blackens my spear. You live? How about me? I do well. I do quite well with my coffee and my belly full and many other things. The rest of the day is still to be foretold. But we shall see how things go. They quarreled in this way, face to face, and then broke off the assembly by the ships. Achilles made his way to his squadron and his quarters, Patroclus by his side, with his companions. Agamemnon proceeded to launch a ship, assigned her 20 oarsmen, loaded beasts for sacrifices to the god, then set aboard Chryses in her loveliness. The versatile Odysseus took the deck, and all oars manned. They pull out on the drenching waves of sea. The troops, meanwhile, were ordered to police camp and did so, throwing refuse in the water. Then to Apollo by the barren surf they carried out full tally hecatombs, and the savor curled in crooked smoke towards heaven. That was the day's work in the army. Agamemnon had kept his threat in mind, and now he acted, calling Erybates and Talthybios, his aides and criers. Criers? Yes, I think it's criers. And go along, he said, both of you, to the quarters of Callias, and take his charming Briseis by the hand to bring to me, and if he balks at giving her, I shall be there myself with men at arms and forced to take her, all the more gall for him. So ominously he sent them on their way, and they who had no stomach for it went along the waste sea shingle toward the ships and shelters of the Myrmidons. Not far from his black ship and hut they found the prince in the open, seated, and seeing these two come was cheerless to Achilles, shamefast, pale with fear of him. They stood without a word, but he knew what they felt and called out. Peace at you, criers and couriers of Zeus and men, come forward. Not one thing have I against you. Agamemnon is the man who sent you for Briseis. Here then, my lord Patroclus, bring out the girl, and give her to these men, and let them both bear witness before the gods who live in bliss as before men who die, including this harsh king, if ever hereafter a need of me arises to keep the rest from black defeat and ruin. Lost in folly, the man could not think back or think ahead how to come through a battle by ships. Patroclus did the bidding of his friend, led from the hut Briseis in her beauty and gave her to them. Back along the ships they took their way, and the girl went loath to go. Leaving his friends in haste, Achilles wept and sat apart by the gray waves, scanning the endless sea. Often he spread his hands in prayer to his mother. Has my life come from you, though it is brief, honor at least from Zeus who storms in heaven I call my due. He gives me precious little. See how the lord of the great plains Agamemnon humiliated me. He has my prize by his own whim for himself. Eyes wet with tears, he spoke, and her ladyship, his mother, heard him in green depths where she lolled near her old father. Gliding, she rose and broke like mist from the inshore, Gray's sea face, to sit down softly before him, her son in tears, and fondling him, she said, "Child, why do you weep? What grief is this? Out with it, tell me, both of us should know." Achilles, fast in battle as a lion, groaned and said, "Why tell you what I know? We sailed out riding, and we took by storm the ancient town of Etion called Thebe, plundered the place, brought slaves and spoils away. At the division later, they shows a young girl, Chryses, for the king. Then Chryses, priest of the Chryses. I think when this Chryses, okay, Chryses is the priest, and then Chryses is the daughter, right? Then Chryses, priest of the orchard god Apollo, came to the beachhead with Achaeans a hold, bringing no end of ransom for his daughter. He had the god's white bands on a golden staff and sued for grace from the army of Achaea. Mostly the two Atreidae corps commanders. All of our soldiers murmured in assent, "Behave well to the priest and take the ransom," but Agamemnon would not. It went against his desire, and brutally he ordered the man away. So the old man withdrew in grief and anger. Apollo cared for him. He heard his prayer and let black bolts of plague fly on the Argives. One by one our men came down with it and died hard as the gods' shots raked the army broadside. But our priest divined the cause and told us that the god meant what the god meant by the plague. I said, "Appease the god," but Agamemnon could not contain his anger. He threatened me, and what he threatened is now done. One girl the Achaeans are embarking now for Chryse breach with gifts for Lord Apollo, the other just now from my hut. The criers came and took her, Briseis girl, my prize, given by the army. If ye can, stand by me. Go to Olympus, pray to Zeus. If ever by word or deed you served him, and so you did, I often heard you tell it in father's house. That time when you alone of all the gods shielded the son of Cronos from peril and disgrace, when the gods, Pallas Athena, Hera, and Poseidon wished him in irons, wished to keep him bound, you had the will to free him of that bondage, and called up to Olympus in all haste Aegaon, whom the gods call Briareus. Why do people have multiple names? The giant had 100 arms, more powerful than the sea god his father. Down he sat by the son of Cronos, glorying in that place. For fear of him, the blissful gods forebode the maniacal Zeus. Remind him of these things, cling to his knees and tell him your good pleasure, if he will take the Trojan side and roll the Achaeans back to the water's edge, back on the ships with slaughter. All the troops may savor what their king has won for them, and he may know his madness, what he lost when he dishonored me, peerless among Achaeans. Her eyes filled, and a tear fell as she answered, "Alas, my child, why did I rear you, doomed the day I bore you? Ah, could you only be serene upon the beachhead through the siege? Your life runs out of so soon. Oh, early death, oh broken heart, no destiny so cruel, and I bore you to this evil. But what you wish I will propose to Zeus, lord of the lightning, going up myself onto the snow glare of Olympus, with hope for his consent. Be quiet now beside the long ships, keep your anger bright against the army, quit the war. Last night Zeus made a journey to the shore of the ocean to feast among the sunburned, and the gods accompanied him. In 12 days he will come back to Olympus, then I shall be there to cross his bronze door sill and take his knees. I trust I'll move him." Basically, this whole thing was just Achilles running to mom and being like, talk to grandpa. Because I think Zeus is the grandfather. I might be wrong. I'm not too well versed in mythology, believe it or not. Believe it or not. Hmm. Maybe we'll do a little quick search. What was her name again? Does it say, actually? Maybe not. Okay, let's just look that up real quick. Okay, Thetis, or Thetis. She mainly appears as a sea nymph, a goddess of water, and one of the 15 Nereids, daughters of the ancient sea god Nereus. Okay, so her father is Nereus? Okay, made sure to clear that up. But I suppose she's done quite a bit for the Olympians, which is why Achilles is kind of pleading to her. Interesting, interesting. Thetis left her... Oh, the name was right there. I went on a search when the name was right there. Thetis left her son, still burning for the softly belted girl whom they had wrested from him. Meanwhile, Odysseus, with his shipload of offerings, came to Chryse. Entering the deep harbor there, they furled the sails and stowed them, and unbent forestays to ease the mast down quickly aft into its rest. Then rowed her to a moorings. Why is everything named Chryse? There's Chryse the harbor, or town, Chryses, the guy, and Chrysis, the daughter. Is this a new town? Like, everything's named after Chryse, I guess. Both stones were dropped, and they tied up astern, and all stepped out into the wash and ebb, then disembarked their cattle for the Archer. And Chryses, from the deep ship, Odysseus, the great tactician, led her to the altar, putting her in her father's hands, and said, Chrysis, as Agamemnon's emissary, I bring your child to you, and for Apollo a hecatomb in the Danaans' name. We trust in this way to appease your lord, who sent down pain and sorrow to the Argives. So he delivered her, and the priest received her, the child so dear to him in joy. Then hastening to give the god his hecatomb, they led bullocks to crowd around the compact altar, rinsed their hands, and delivered in barley baskets, as open-armed to heaven and Chryses prayed, O hear me, master of the silver bow, protector of Tenedos and the holy towns, if while I pray you listen once before and honor me, and punish the Achaeans. Now let my wish come true again, but turn your plague away this time from the Danaans. And this petition too Apollo heard. When prayers were said and grains of barley strewn, they held the bullocks for the knife and flayed them, cutting out joints and wrapping these in fat. 2 layers folded with raw strips of flesh for the old man to burn on cloven. That word. Which I will be careful not to say, even though it has a different meaning in this context. Wetting it all with wine. Around him stood young men with 5 tinted forks in hand, and when the vitals had been tasted, joints consumed, they sliced the shins and quarters for the spits, roasted them evenly, and drew them off. Their meal being now prepared and all work done, they feasted to their heart's content, and made desire for meat and drink recede again. Then young men filled their wine bowls to the brim, ladling drops for the god in every cup. A propitiatory, a purportatory, propitiatory songs rose clear and strong until day's end, to praise the god Apollo as one who keeps the plague afar, and listening the god took joy. After the sun went down and darkness came, at last Odysseus's men lay down to rest under the stern hawsers. When dawn spread out her fingertips of rose, they put to sea for the main camp of Achaeans, and the archer god sent them a following wind. Stepping the mast, they shook their canvas out, and wind caught, bellying the sail. A foaming dark blue wave sang backward from the bow as the running ship made way against the sea until they came offshore of the encampment. Here they put in and hauled the black ship high, far up the sand, braced her with shoring timbers, and then disbanded, each to his own hut. Meanwhile, unstirring and with smoldering heart, the godlike athlete, son of Peleus, Prince Achilles, waited by his racing ships. He would not enter the assembly of Amylus men, nor ever go to war, but felt his valor stalling in his breast with idleness, and misses the cries of battle. Now, when in fact 12 days had passed, the gods who lived forever turned back to Olympus, with Zeus in power supreme among them. Thetis had kept in mind her mission for her son, and rising like a dawn mist from the sea in a cloud, she soared aloft in heaven to high Olympus. Zeus, with massive brows, she found apart, on the chief crest enthroned, and slipping down before him, her left hand placed on his knees, and her right hand held up the cup to cup his chin. She made her plea to him. O Father Zeus, if ever amid immortals, by word or deed I serve you, grant my wish, and see to my son's honor. Doom for him of all men come on quickest. Now Lord Marshal Agamemnon has been high-handed with him, has commandeered and holds his prize of war, but you can make him pay for this, profound mind of Olympus. Lend the Trojans power, until Achaeans recompense my son, and heap new honor upon him. When she finished, the gatherer of clouds said never a word, but sat unmoving for a long time, silent. Thetis clung to his knees, then spoke again. Give your infallible word, and bow your head, or else reject me. Can you be afraid to let me see how low in your esteem I am of all the gods? Greatly perturbed, Lord Zeus, who masses clouds, said, Here is trouble. You drive me into open war with Hera sooner or later. She will be at me, scolding all day long. Even as matters stand, she never rests from badgering me before the gods. I take the Trojan side in battle, so she says. Go home before you are seen, but you can trust me to put my mind on this. I shall arrange it. Here let me bow my head, and then be content to see me bound by that most solemn act before the gods. My word is not revocable nor ineffectual, once I nod upon it. He bent his ponderous black brows down, and locks ambrosial of his immortal head swung over them, as all Olympus trembled. After this pact they parted. Misty Thetis from glittering Olympus leapt away into the sea. Zeus to his hall retired. There all the gods rose from their seats in deference before their father. Not one dared to face him unmoved, but all stood up before him, and thus he took his throne. But Hera knew he had new interest. She had seen the goddess Thetis, silvery-footed daughter of the Old One of the Sea, conferring with him, and nagging, she inquired of Zeus Cronion. Who is it this time, schemer? Who has your ear? How fond you are of secret plans, of taking decisions privately? You could not bring yourself, could you, to favor me with any word of your new plot? The fathers of the gods and men said in reply, Hera, all my provisions you must not itch to know. You'll find me rigorous, consort though you are. In all appropriate matters no one else, no god or man, shall be advised before you. But when I choose to think alone, don't harry me about it with your questions. I wasn't expecting us to get a little back and forth quipping with the with the gods here. This is a little interesting. Yes, a tad bit. Who doesn't like some bickering? Nah. The throat must be quenched every now and again. Okay, we're continuing now. Sorry for the pauses. I just needed a little bit of time to breathe. The Lady Hera answered with wide eyes. Majesty, what a thing to say. I have not harried you before with questions, surely. You are quite free to tell what you will tell. This time I dreadfully fear. I have a feeling that the silver-footed daughter of the Old One of the Sea led you astray. Just now at daybreak anyway. She came to sit with you and take your knees. My guess is you bowed your head for her in solemn pact that you will see to the honor of Achilles, that is, to Achaean carnage near the ships. Now Zeus, the gatherer of the clouds, said, Marvelous, you and your own guesses, you are near it too, but there is not one thing that you can do about it, only estrange yourself still more from me. All the more gall for you. If what you say is true, you may be sure it pleases me. And now you just sit down, be still, obey me, or else not all the gods upon Olympus can help in the least when I approach your share to lay my inexorable heads upon you. At this the wide-eyed Lady Hera feared him, and sat quite still and bent her will to his. Yeah, Zeus is not a good husband, threatening his wife. Who knew? Up through the hall of Zeus now all the lords of heaven were sullen and looked askance. Hephaestus, sorry, I mispronounced the name. Hephaestus, master artificer, broke the silence, doing a kindness to the snowy-armed lady, his mother Hera. Ah, what a miserable day, if you two raise your voices over mortal creatures. More than enough already. Must you bring your noisy bickering among the gods? With pleasure can we take in a fine dinner when baser matters gain the upper hand. To mother my advice is, what she knows better make up too, father, or he'll start his thundering and shake our feast to bits. You know how he can shock us if he cares to, out of our seats with lightning bolts. Supreme power is he. Oh, soothe him. Please, take a soft tone. Get back in his good graces. Then he'll be benign to us again. Benign. I like how that's the word he decides to use. He'll be benign to us again. He lurches up as he spoke, and held a wine cup out to her, a double-handed one, and said, Dear mother, patience, hold your tongue, no matter how upset you are. I would not see you battered, dearest. It would hurt me, and yet I could not help you, not a bit. The Olympian is difficult to oppose. One other time I took your part, he caught me around 1 foot and flung me into the sky for our tremendous terrace. I soared all day. Just as the sun dropped down, I dropped down too, on Lemnos, nearly dead. The island people nursed a fallen god. I did not know such a thing had happened. That is a little crazy. But I suppose it's in line for very Zeus-like activities. To just toss a random god that he is displeased with. He made her smile, and the goddess, white-armed Hera, smiling, took the wine cup from his hand. Then, dipping from the wine bowl round, he went from left to right, serving the other gods nectar of sweet delight. And quenchless laughter broke out among the blissful gods to see Hephaestus wheezing down the hall. So all day long until the sun went down they spent in feasting, and the measured feast matched well their heart's desire. So did the flawless harp held by Apollo, and heavenly songs inquiring and antiphon at all the muses sang. And when the shining sun of day sank in the west, they turned homeward, each one to rest, each to that home the bandy-legged, wondrous artisan Hephaestus fashioned for them with his craft. The lord of storm and lightning, Zeus, retired and shut his eyes where sweet sleep ever came to him, and at his side laid Hera, goddess of the golden share. And that was book 1. So, a bit of back and forth between the men over what to do with the daughter of Chrysis. I almost said Chrysler, like the vehicle. Then bickering towards Thetis, as Achilles had to give up the woman given to him as obviously a slave, because that is how things went back in the day. And he wept to his mommy, and mommy was like, okay, I'll go take care of it. She goes to Zeus, and she's like, please, do this thing, help out my boy. Zeus stays quiet for a little bit. She's like, do you really hate me that much? I assume it's with the equivalent of what she said. I sort of think she meant more. She basically kind of guilt tripped him a little bit. And Zeus is like, listen, listen, I'll have it in mind to do something about this. And he bows his head, and Hera saw Thetis go back to the sea, and she came to him and was like, hey, what are you doing? What are you up to? And Zeus is like, man, you're bickering. Stop that. Stop pestering me with questions. And Hera is like, I don't pester you with questions. How could you say that? And then, she made a somewhat correct guess about what was going on. And Zeus is like, oh, close one. But listen, I am gonna think about this, and you sit down, or I'm gonna just smack you around. And Hera, of course, very much afraid of her husband, as anyone would be, sat down, and then Hephaestus is like, hey, Ma, a little patience, my advice, a little patience, come back to his good graces, shell out, appease him, and he'll be benign with us again. And then he went on his way, and then the gods feast. And that was book 1. Book 2. Let's see how this goes. Assembly and muster of armies. Now supped the gods and those who fought at Troy, horse handlers, charioteers, the long night through, but slumber had no power over Zeus, who pondered in the night how to exalt Achilles, how in his absence to destroy Achaeans in windrows at the ships. He thought it best to send to Agamemnon that same night a fatal dream, calling the dream, he said, sinister dream. Go down amid the fast ships of Achaea, enter Lord Agamemnon's quarters, tell him everything point by point, as I command you. Let him prepare the long-haired carles of Achaea to fight at once. Now he may take by storm the precious town of Troy. The Olympians, tell him, are of two minds no longer. Hera swayed them, and the black days overhang the men of Troy. The black days overhang the men of Troy. The dream departed at his word, descending swift as wind to where the long ships lay, and sought the son of Atreus. In his hut he found him sleeping, drifted all about with balm of slumber. At the marshal's pillow, standing still, the dream took shape as Neleus' son, old Nestor. Agamemnon deferred to Nestor most of all his peers. So in his guise the dream spoke to the dreamer. Sleeping, son of Atreus, tamer of horses, you should not sleep all night, not as a captain responsible for his men, with many duties, a great voice in the conferences of war. Follow me closely. I am a messenger from Zeus, who is far away but holds you dear. Prepare the troops, he said, to take the field without delay. Now may you take by storm the precious town of Troy. The Olympian gods are of two minds no longer. Hera's pleading swayed them all, and the bitter days of Zeus awaiting the Trojans. From Zeus awaiting the Trojans. Hold on to this message against forgetfulness and tides of day, when blissful sleep is gone. On this the dream withdrew into the night, and left the man to envision, wrapped all that was not to be, thinking that day to conquer Priam's town. Priam, I think, If I remember correctly, is Priam the old king, father of Hector? And of course, the other prince, the brother of Hector, I forget his name. Silly boy, Mr. I will take this guy's wife. He's just a silly guy like that, you know, it happens. Ancient times were a wild little thing. Not a lot of. Well, there were a lot of rules, but sometimes people very much just didn't care. Or just had the gall to do this and or that. Where did I finish reading? Oh, childish trust. That what action lay ahead in the mind of Zeus he could not know. What grief and wounds from shock of combat in the field, alike for Trojans and Achaeans. Waking, he heard the dream voice ringing round him still, and sat up straight to pull his tunic on. A fresh one, never worn before. He shook his cloak around him, tied his shinning feet on fitted sandals, hung upon his shoulder baldric and long sword. Held it in the silver, and, taking his dynastic staff in hand, he made his way among the ships. I may be having hiccups right now. Excuse me a moment. All is well, all is well. Pure dawn had reached Olympus' mighty side, heralding day for Zeus and all the gods, as Agamemnon, the Lord Marshal, met his clarion criers and directed them to call the unshorn Achaeans to full assembly. The call sang out, and quickly they assembled. But first, alongside Nestor's ship, he held a council with his peers. There he convened them and put a subtle plan before them, saying, "Hear me, friends. A vision and a dream has come to me in the starry night. A figure in height and bearing very close to Nestor, standing above my pillow, saying to me, sleeping, son of Atreus, tamer of horses, you should not sleep all night, not as a captain responsible for his men, with many duties, a great voice in the conferences of war. Follow me closely, I am a messenger from Zeus, who is far away, but holds you dear. Prepare the troops," he said, "to take the fields without delay. Now may you take by storm that spacious town of Troy. The Olympian gods are of two minds no longer. Hera's pleading swayed them all, and the bitter days from Zeus await the Trojans." Hold on to this message. When he had said all this, the phantasm departed like a bird, and slumbered left me. Look to it then. We arm the troops for action, but let me test them first in that harangue? I do not know this word. Harangue that custom calls for. What I shall propose is flight in the longships. You must hold them back, speaking each one from where he stands. How curtly he holds his curious plan, and took his seat. Now stood Lord Nestor of the sandy shore of Pylos, in concern for them, and spoke, "Friends, lords and captains of the Argives, if any other man had told this dream, a fiction, should call it, we'd be wary. But he who saw the vision is our king, up with you, and will put the men in arms." On this he turned and led the way from the council, and all the rest, staff-bearing counselors, rose and obeyed their marshals. From the camp the troops were turning out now, thick as bees that issued from some crevice in a rock face. That is certainly a description. Endlessly pouring forth to make a cluster, and swarm on blooms of summer here and there, glinting and droning, busy in the bright air. Like bees innumerable from the ships and huts down the deep foreshore steamed those regiments towards the assembly ground, and rumor blazed among them like a crier sent from Zeus. Turmoil grew in the great field as they entered and sat down, clangorous companies, the ground under them groaning, hubbub everywhere. Now 9 men criers shouted to compose them. Quiet! Quiet! Attention! Here are captains. Then all above, where did I read all above? Then all strove to their seats and hushed their din. Before them now arose Lord Agamemnon, holding the staff Hephaestus fashioned once, and took pains fashioning. It was a gift from him to the son of Cronos, lordly Zeus, who gave it to the bright pathfinder Hermes. Hermes handed it on in turn to Pelops, famous charioteer. Pelops to Atreus, and Atreus gave it to the sheepkeeper Thistes. He to Agamemnon, king and lord of many islands, of all Argos, the very same who, leaning on it now, spoke out among the Argives. Friends, fighters, Danans, companions of Ares, and sons of Cronos, the son of Cronos has enlightened me in cruel folly, a wayward god. He promised solemnly that I shall not sail before I storm the inner town of Troy. Crookedness and duplicity, it is clear. He calls me to return to Argos beaten after these many losses. That must be his will and his good pleasure. Who knows why? Many a great town's height has he destroyed and will destroy, being supreme in power. Shameful indeed the future men should hear we fought so long here, with such weight of arms, all uselessly. We made a long war for nothing, never an end to it, though we had the odds if we Achaeans and the Trojans should hold a truce and tally on both sides. On one side native Trojans, on the other Achaean troops drawn up in squads of 10, and each squad took one Trojan for a steward. Then many squads would go unserved. I tell you, Achaean men so far outnumber those whose home is Troy. But the allies are there. From many Asian cities came these lances, and it is they who hedge me out and hinder me from plundering the fortress town of Troy. Under great Zeus 9 years have passed away, making ship timbers rot old tickle fray, while overseas our wives and children still await us in our halls, and yet the mission on which we came is far from being done. Well and good, let us act on what I say. Retreat, embark for our own fatherland. We cannot hope any longer to take Troy. Why is he saying this? He made their hearts leap in their breast, the rank and file, who had no warning of his plan. And all the throng aroused began to surge as ground swells do on dark Icarian deeps, under the south and east wind, heeling down from Father Zeus's cloud land. For a field of standing grain, when wind puffs from the west cross it in billows, and the tasseled ears are bent and tossed. Just so moved this assembly, shouting confusedly, they all began to scramble for the ships. High in the air, a dust cloud from their scuffling rose. Commands rang back and forth to man the cables, haul the black ships to the salt immortal sea. They cleared the launching ways, their hearts on home. The shouts went up as props were pulled away, thus overriding their own destiny. And the Argives might have had their voyage homeward, had Hera not resorted to Athena and cried, "Can you believe it? Tireless daughter of Zeus, who bears the shield of cloud, will they put out for home this way, the Argives embarking on the broad back of the sea? How could they now abandon Helen, princess of Argos, leave her in Priam's hands, the boast of every Trojan, Helen for whom Achaeans died by thousands far from home? Go down through the ranks of men at arms, and in your mild way dissuade them, one by one, from hauling out their graceful ships to sea." The grey-eyed goddess Athena obeyed her, diving swifter than wind, down from the crest of Olympus to earth amid the long ships. There she found Odysseus, peer of Zeus in stratagems, holding his ground. He had not touched the prow of his black ship, not he, for anguish filled him, heart and soul, and halting near him now, the grey-eyed goddess made her plea to him. "Son of Laertes, I need to learn how to pronounce things. Laertes, son of Laertes, and the son of son of Laertes and the god of old, Odysseus, master mariner and soldier. Must all of you take oars in the long ships in the flight to your old country, leaving Helen in Priam's hands? The Argive grace, Argive grace, to be the boast of every Trojan? Helen, for whom Achaeans died by thousands far from home? No, no, take heart and go among the men. In your wild way dissuade them one by one from hauling out their graceful ships to sea. Knowing the god's clear word when he heard it, Odysseus broke into a run. He tossed his cloak to be picked up by his lieutenant, Eurybates of Ithaca. Eurybates of Ithaca, and wheeling close to the silent figure of Agamemnon, relieved him of his great dynastic staff, then ran on towards the ship. Each time he met an officer or man of rank, he paused, and in his ear he said, "Don't be a fool. It isn't like you to desert the field the way some coward would. Come, halt, command the troops back to their seats. You don't know yet what Agamemnon means. He means to test us, and something punitive comes next. Not everyone could hear what he proposed just now in the council. Heaven forbid he cripple in his rage the army he commands. There's passion in kings. They hold power from Zeus. They are dear to Zeus." But when Odysseus met some common soldier bawling still, he drove him back. He swung upon him with his staff and told him, "Fool, go back, sit down, listen to better men, unfit for soldiering as you are, weak sister counting for nothing in battle or in council." Damn, Odysseus out here roasting some random guy that's just crying. Well, he has his way with the words, I suppose. Shall we all wield the power of kings? We cannot, and many masters are no good at all. Let there be one commander, one authority, holding his royal staff and proceeding from Zeus, the son of the crooked-minded Cronos, one to command the rest. So he himself in his commanding way went through the army, and back to the assembly ground they streamed from ships and huts with multitudinous roar, as when a comber from the windy sea on a majestic beach goes thundering down, and the ebb seethes offshore. Oh, you... oh, you like your horse. Why the fuck is that so he himself so far? To what do you refer to? If you do not mind me asking. And I'm glad you like your horse? Look at the text. So he himself in his commanding way. That is just... it's meaning to say that like he himself went to do the thing. That is what that means, he himself. Why is it so far? I don't know. Some of the words on this are like that. You see as here as well. So all subsided except one man. Like it's. I just imagine it's the way. I actually don't know. It's just the way I guess the font works. I mean, this was written like I imagine early 19. You know, like this was written back in the last century. I don't know if they just had different, what do you call it? Like the way they shape their words on the page. It too was a little bit befuddling to me, Yuki, trust me. I too was confused a bit when I began reading a sentence and I was like, this doesn't make sense. And it's not capitalized, and then I see these words off to the side. So all subsided except one man who still railed on alone. Thersites, a babbling soldier who had an impudent way with officers, thinking himself amusing to the troops, the most obnoxious rogue who went to Troy, bow-legged, with one limping leg and the shoulders rounded above his chest. He had a skull quite conical and mangy fuzz like mold. Odious to Achilles this man was, and to Odysseus, having yapped at both, but this time he berated Agamemnon, at whom, in fact, the troops were furious, lifting his voice and jeering. You know that what that thing is called, but we usually only shift it by like 4 fingers maximum. Hey, I wasn't around talking to the Library of Congress when they decided to place this particular version of the book into their archives, okay? They're just silly. They're silly people who do silly things in silly ways for silly reasons. I do wish they did it better, though. That is somewhat annoying. Somewhat, I say, somewhat. Agamemnon, what have you got to groan about? What more can you gape after? Bronze fills all your huts, bronze and the hottest girls. We hand them over to you, you first, when any stronghold falls. Or is it gold you lack? A Trojan father will bring you gold in a ransom for his boy, though I, or some foot soldier like myself, roped the prisoner in. Or a new woman to lie with, couple with, keep stowed away for private use. Is that your heart's desire? You send us back to bloody war for that? Comrades, are you women of Achaea? I say we pull away for home, and leave him here on the beach to lay his captive girls. Let him find out if we troops are dispensable when he loses us. Contempt is all he knows for a man twice his quality, by keeping Achilles' woman that he snatched away. But there's no bile, no bad blood in Achilles, he lets it go. Sir, if he drew his blade, you'd never abuse another man. So boldly, Thersites baited Marshal Agamemnon, till at his side, abruptly, Odysseus halted, glaring, and grimly said, "You spellbinder, you sack of wind, be still. Will you stand up to the officers alone? Of all who came here to beleaguer Troy, I say there is no soldier worse than you. Better not raise your voice to your commanders, or rail at them, after you lie awake with nothing in your mind but shipping home. We have no notion, none, how this campaign may yet turn out. Who knows if we sail homeward in victory or defeat? Yet you bleed on, defaming the Lord Marshal Agamemnon because our Danaans veterans award him plentiful gifts of war. You sicken me. Here is my promise, and it will be kept. If once I hear your whining voice, I hope Odysseus' head may be knocked loose from his own shoulders. Hope I may no longer be called the father of Telemachus. If I do not take hold of you and strip you, yes, even if of the shirt that hides your scut, from this assembly ground, I'll drive you howling and whip you like a dog onto the ships." Odysseus is really, really trying to defend Agamemnon. Like, he is doing everything to make sure he keeps the orders of Athena followed. Whipped, some may say he is, but we would all be would a goddess come to us and say, "Do this thing." At this he struck him sharply with his staff on the ribs and shoulders. The poor devil quailed, and a wailing tear fell from his eyes. A scarlet welt, raised by the golden-studded staff, sprang out upon his back. Then, cowering down in fear and pain, he blinked like an imbecile and wiped his tears upon his arms. The soldiers, for all their irritation, fell to laughing at the man's disarray. You might have heard one fellow, glancing at his neighbor, say, "Oh, what a clout! 1,000 times Odysseus has done good work, thinking out ways to fight or show how you do it. This time, though, he's done the best deed of the war, making that poisonous clown capsize. By God, a long, long time will pass before our hero cares to call down his chief again." The crowd took it in this way, but the raiders of cities, Odysseus, with his staff, stood upright there, and at his side, gray-eyed Athena stood in aspect like a crier, calling, "Silence! That every man, front rank and rear alike, might hear his words and wait what he proposes." Now, for their sake, he spoke. "Lord Agamemnon, son of Atreus, king, your troops are willing to let you seem disgraced in all men's eyes. They will not carry through the work they swore to to enroot from Argos, from the blue grass land, never to turn back till they plundered Troy. No, now like callow boys or widowed women, they wail to one another to go home. I grant this hardship wearying to everyone. I grant the urge to go. Who can forget 1 month at sea? No more, far from his wife, will make a raider sick of the rowing bench, sick of his ship, as gales and rising seas delay him even a month. As for ourselves, now is the 9th year that we kept this siege. No wonder at it then. I cannot blame you men for sickening by the beaked ships. But still it would be utter shame to stay so long and sail home empty-handed. Hold on hard, dear friends. Come, sweat it out, until at least we learn if Calchas had made true prophecy or not. Here is a thing we cannot help remembering, and every man of you whom death has spared can testify. One day, just when the ships had staged at Aulus, loaded everyone with woe from Priam and the men of Troy, we gathered around the fountain by the altars, performing sacrifices to the gods under under a dappled sycamore. The water welled up shining there, and in that place the great portent appeared. My throat is growing dry. Gay? Sometimes, Yuki. Sometimes. What is that? That's just a guy. That emote is just a guy. That's just a dude. It doesn't really show up well on this chat, does it? I wonder why. Like, it's sort of faded. I wonder why that is. Oh my god? What? You assumed his gender? Well, I am allowed to. I can make an assumption based off of appearance. If you saw a four-legged, furred creature, large as a car, and, well, brown as dirt, you would assume it's a bear, would you not? Is that what the hell is that? Why is that just plankton? That is plankton with hair. And that is a pregnant woman. Intriguing, might I say. That is feet. More acceptable. A blood-red serpent from whom Zeus himself sent gliding to the light, blood-chilling, silent, from beneath our altar, twined and swiftly spiraled up to the tree. There were some fledgling sparrows, baby things, hunched in their downy wings, just 8 of these among the leaves along the topmost bot, and the 9th bird, the mother, who had hatched them. The serpent slid to the babies and devoured them, all sheeping pitifully, while their mother fluttered and shrilled in her distress. He coiled and sprang to catch her by one frantic wing. After the snake had gorged upon them all, the god who sent him turned him to an omen, turned him to stone, hid him in stone, a wonder worked by the son of the crooked-minded Kronos, and we stood awed by what had come to pass. Seeing this portent of the gods had visited our sacrifices, Calchas told what the meaning before us all. At once, he said, dumbfounded, are you gentlemen of Achaia. Blah, blah, blah. Here was a portent for us, and a great one, granted us by inscrutable Zeus, a promise long to be in fulfillment, but the fame of that event will never die. Consider the snake-devouring fledglings and their mother. The little ones were 8, and she made 9. 9 are the years that we shall wage this war, and in the 10th, will take this spacious town. That was his explanation of the sight. Oh, so now how it all comes true. Hold out, Achaeans, with your with your gear of war. Campaigners, hold on the beachhead still. We take the town. I also enjoy the rest of those emotes he posted. They are kind of good. Of course, you have the classic shaken ass. You have spin, and then boom. Don't know about that shad face right there, though. Stretch. Sorry about that. That sounded odd. I try not to make sounds when that happens. And it happens all the time. Anyways. It cannot be helped sometimes. It cannot be helped. My jaw wishes to be clenched. Where was I now? And that was his explanation of the sight. Oh, see now how it all comes true. Hold out, Achaeans, with your gear of war. Campaigners, hold on to the beachhead till we take the town. After the speech, a great shout from the Argives echoed fiercely among the ships. They cried, "Aye!" to noble Odysseus' words. Then Nestor, lord of Gerenia, charioteer, addressed them. Lamentable the way you men have talked, like boys, like children, strangers to a stern war. What will become of our sworn oaths and pacts? To the flames, you mean to say, with battle plans, soldiery calculations, covenants, our right hands pledged and pledged with unmixed wine? Once we could trust in these, but wrangling now and high words dissipate them, and we cannot turn up a remedy, though we talk for days. Son of Atreus, be as you were before, inflexible, committing the troops to combat. Let those go rot, those few who take their counsel apart from the Achaeans. They can win nothing by it. They would sail for Argos before they know it, what the Lord Zeus promised will be proven false or true. I think myself the power above us nodded on that day when the Argives put to sea in their fast-sailing ships, with death aboard and doom for Trojans. Forking out of heaven, he lightened on the right, a fateful sign. Therefore let no man press for our return before he beds down with some Trojan wife to avenge the struggles and the groans of Helen. If any man were sooner die than stay, let him lay upon hand upon his ship. He meets his death and doom before the rest. My lord, yourself be otherwise persuaded. What I am going to say is not a trifle to toss aside. Marshal the troops by nations, and then again by clans. Lord Agamemnon, clan in support of clan, nation of nation. If you will do this, and they carry it out, you may find out which captains are Pultrons, and which are valors, foot soldiers too, as each will fight before his clansmen's eyes when clans make up our units in the battle. You can discern then if your siege has failed by heaven's will or men's faint-heartedness and foolishness in war. Agamemnon made reply, Believe me, sir, once more you win us all with your proposals here. Oh, Father Zeus, Athena, and Apollo have given me 10 more to plan with me like this among the Achaeans. Priam's fortress then falls in a day, our own hands prey and spoil, but Zeus, the Storm King, sent me misery, plunging me into futile brawls and feuds. I mean Achilles and myself. We fought like enemies in words over a girl, and I gave away the anger first. We too, if we could ever think as one the Trojans' evil day would be postponed no longer. Take your meal now. We prepare for combat. Let every man be sure his point is weathered, his shield well slung. Let every charioteer give father to his battle team. Inspect his wheels and cart, and put his mind on war, so we may bear ourselves as men all day in the grim battle. There will be no respite, no break at all, unless night coming on dissolve the battle lines and rage of men. The shield strap will be sweat-soaked on your ribs. Your hand ache and stiffen on the spear shaft, and sweat will drench the horses' flanks that toil to pull your polished car. But let me see one man of you willing to drop out, one man skulking around the ships, and from that instant he has no chance against the dogs and kites. What are kites? Being so dismissed, the Argives roared, as when upon some cape a sea roused by the south wind roars in a jutting point of rock, a target wind and waves will never let alone, from any quarter rising. So the soldiers got to their feet and scattered to the ships to send up smoke from the campfires and be fed. But first to one of the gods who never die. Each man resigned his bit and made his prayer to keep away from death in the day's fighting. As for Lord Agamemnon, their commander, a fattened ox he chose for a sacrifice to Zeus, the overlord of heaven, calling around him the senior captains of the Achaean host, Nestor, then Lord Idomeneus, then those two lords who bore the name Aias, then the son of Tydeus, and sixth Odysseus, the peer of Zeus in warcraft, Menelaus, Lord of the war cry, needed no summoning. Kites, the kite thingies children have? I mean, I don't think they mean kites this time around. As in, like, those kind of kites. They might mean something completely different. Although I'm not too sure. He knew and shared the duties of his brother. Around the ox they stood and took up barley, and Agamemnon prayed on their behalf. O Excellency, O Majesty, O Zeus, beyond the storm cloud, dwelling in high air, let not the sun go down upon this day into the western gloom before I tumble Priam's blackened roof tree down, exploding fire through his portals. Let me rip with my bronze point the shirt that clings on Hector and slash his ribs. May throngs around him lie, his friends head down in dust, biting the dry ground. But Zeus would not accomplish these desires. He took the ox, but added woe on woe. Zeus. I kind of had forgotten a little bit that this entire thing was to try and get Achilles' woman back to him. When prayers were said and grains of barley strewn, they held the bullock for the knife and flayed him, cutting out joints and wrapping these in fat, two-layered folded with raw strips of flesh to burn on cloven wood, and the tripes they spitted to be broiled. When every joint had been consumed and kidney had been tasted, they sliced the shins and quarters of the spits, roasted them evenly, and drew them off. The meal being now prepared and all work done, they feasted royally and put away desire for meat and drink. Then Nestor spoke. Excellency, Lord Marshal Agamemnon, we shall do well to tarry here no longer, we officers in our circle. Let us not postpone the work heaven put into our hands. Let criers among the Achaean men at arms muster our troops along the ships. Ourselves will pass together down the Achaean lines to rouse their appetite for war. I do wonder whether they're gonna get destroyed or not. They probably will. And Agamemnon, marshal of the army, turned at once, telling his criers to send out shrill and clear to all Achaean troops the call to battle. The cry went out, the men came crowding. Officers from their commander's side went swiftly down to form each unit, and the gray-eyed goddess Athena kept the pace behind them, bearing her shield of storm, immortal and august. Those 100 golden-plated tassels, worth a hecatomb each one, floated in air. So down the ranks that dazzling goddess went to stir the attack, and each man in his heart grew strong to fight and never quit the melee. For at her passage war itself became lovelier than return, lovelier than sailing in the decadent ships to their own native land. As in dark forest, measureless along the crests of hills, a conflagration soars, and the bright bed of fire glows for miles. Now fiery lights from this great host in bronze played on the earth and flashed high into the heaven. That's the sun rising. A very fancy way of putting it. And as migrating birds, nation by nation, wild geese and arrow-throated cranes and swans over Asia's meadowland and marches around the streams of Castrios, with giant flight and glowing wings, keep beating down in tumult on that verdant land that echoes to their pinions. Even so, nation by nation, from the ships and huts, this host debauched upon Scamander's plain. Sorry, I had to burp. Why am I interrupted by my own bodily functions like that? With noise like thunder pent in earth under their trampling, under the horses' hooves they filled the flowering land beside Scamander, as countless as the leaves and blades of spring. So too, like clouds of buzzing, fevered flies that swarm about a cattle stall in summer when pails are splashed with milk. Leche. So relentlessly by thousands moved the fighters of Achaea over the plains, lusting to rend the Trojans. But just as herdsmen easily divide their goats when herds have mingled in the pasture, so these were marshaled by their officers to one side and the other, forming companies for combat. Agamemnon's lordly mane was like the mien of Zeus, whose joy is lightning. Oaken waisted as Ares, god of war, he seemed, and deep-chested as Lord Poseidon, and as a great bull in his majesty towers supreme amid a grazing herd. So on that day Zeus made the son of Atreus tower over his host, supreme among them. Tell me now, Muses, dwelling on Olympus, as you are heavenly, and are everywhere, and everything is known to you, while we can only hear the tales and never know. Who were the Danaans' lords and officers? The rank and file I shall not name. I could not, if I were gifted with 10 tongues and voices unfaltering, and a brazen heart within me, unless the Muses, daughters of Olympian Zeus, beyond the storm cloud, could recall all those who sailed for the campaign at Troy. Let me name only captains and contingents, and numbers all the ship. And now we're gonna get a lot of words. The fighters of IKEA. The fighters of IKEA. Can you imagine? There's it's hard to pronounce what's the word? Achaeans. Because they sometimes are referred to as Argives or something like that. And it's like it's just hard. Achaeans, I think, is technically the right pronunciation in English, at least. Obviously there's most likely the actual pronunciation, which I do not know. But Achaeans, Argives, such and such. Of the Boeotians, Peneleus, Leitus, Arcesilos, Prothaenor, and Clonius were captains. Boeotians, men of Haria and Elis, the stony town, and those who lived at Skoinos, and Skolos, and the glens of Eteonos, Thespia, Graia, round the dancing grounds of Mycalessus, round the walls of Harma, Alesian, Erythra, Eleon, Hyle, and Petion, and Ocalea, and Medion, that compact citadel, Copai, Eutresis, Thebes, I think that's Thebes, of the doves, those two of Coronia, and the grasslands of Heliartos, and the men who held Plataea town and Glissus, and the people of Lower Thebes, the city ringed with walls, and great how do you even pronounce this? Ongestus, where Poseidon's grove glitters, and people too of Arne, rich in purple wine grapes, and the men of Medea, Nisa the blessed, and coastal Anthedon. All these had 50 ships. 120 Boeotian fighters came in every ship. Their neighbors of Aspledon then, and Minion, Archamenos, Ascalaphus, their captain, with Ialmenus, both sons of Ares, both conceived in actor's manner by severe Astyoche, who kept a tryst with Ares in the women's rooms above, where secretly the strong god lay beside her. 30 ships these minions drew up in the line of battle. Phocians in their turn were led by Schedios and by Epistrophus, the sons of Iphitus, Nabolides, that hero. Phocians dwelling in Cyparissus, rocky Phytocrisa, the holy. Panepius and Delos near Anemoria. Hympalis, and by the side of noble Cephisus, or in Lilaea, where the river rises. 40 black ships had crossed the sea with these, who now drew up their companies on the flanks of the Boeotians and armed themselves. How much more? Please. The Locrians had Aias for commander. Oileus' son, that Aias known as the Short One, as being neither tall nor great compared to Aias Telamonius, a corselet all of linen he wore, and could outthrow all Hellenes and Achaeans with a spear. His were the Locrians, who lived at Chinos and Opais and Calairos, Bessa and Scarf, and the pretty town Augeia, Tarphi and Tronion, that lie on both sides of the stream Boagrias. Aias led 40 black ships of the Locrians, who lived across the channel from Euboea. I wish you have pity on me, my kindred. This is more difficult than it seems. Men of the island, then, the resolute Abantes, those of Chalcis, Eretria, and Histiaia. Histiaia? Come on. Of the laden vines, Carinthos by the sea, the crag of Dion, those of Caristus, those of Styra, all who had young Elephenor, Chalcodontiades, the chief of the Abantes for commander. Quick on their feet, with long scalpel locks, those troops enlisted, hungering for body armor of enemies to pierce with ashen spears. And Alphenor black ships numbered 40. Next were the men of Athens, the strong city, the commonwealth protected by Erechtheus. It was whom Athena, Zeus's daughter, cared for in childhood in the older time, though he was born of plowland kind with grain. She placed him in her city, in her shrine, where he received each year with bulls and rams the prayers of young Athenians. Their commander here at Troy was Petius' son, Menestus. No soldier born on earth could equal him in battle at maneuvering men and horses, though Nestor rivaled him by grace of age. In his command were Athens' 50 ships. Great Aias led 12 ships from Salamis and beached them where Athenians formed for battle. Then there were those of Argos, those of Tyrins, fortress with massive walls, Hermione, and Asine, that led upon the gulf. Troezen, Aeoni, the vineyard country of Epidaurus, Agina, and Masses. I don't know how to pronounce that E. These Diomedes, yeah, okay, so it's E, like Diomedes, lord of the battle cry, commanded with his comrade Sthenelus, whose father was illustrious Capaneus, and in third place Areolus, a figure godlike in beauty, son of Megistrius, lord of Talaonides. Over them all ruled Diomedes, lord of the battle cry, and 80 black ships crossed the sea with these. I am made dry by the amount of people that were involved in this. Next were the men who held the well-built city, Mycenae, and rich Corinth, and Cleonae, and Orneae, and fair Erythrea, and Sicyon, where first Adrestus ruled Hypericea, hilltop Gonoessa, Pellene, and the country around Aegion. If that might be Aegion. Aegion? Who knows? And those who held the northern coast, Aegialos, with spacious Hellike. Their 100 ships were under the command of Agamemnon, son of Atreus. It was who led by far the greatest number and the best, and glorying in arms, he now put on a soldier's bronze, distinguished amid heroes for valor and the troops he led to war. And I thought it was over. It is not in fact over. There is plenty more to read. Let me just take care of a couple of tabs because I was having somebody on the back. Someone in the background. No longer streaming at the moment. Next, those of Lacedaemon, land of gorgeous men who had lived at Pharis, Sparta, Messi, hunted by doves, or doves. I think they mean doves. Prisaea, fair Algeia, Amyclae too, and Helos by the sea, and Las and the land around Oitylos. These Menelaos, Agamemnon's brother, lord of the war cry, led with 60 ships, and drawn up separately from all the rest they armed as Menelaus, I don't know why I read that weirdly at first. Menelaus on his own burned to arouse his troops to fight. He burned to avenge the struggles and the groans of Helen. Next came the men of Pylus and Arane, Trim town, and Tryon, where they ford Alpheus River, Ip high and stony, Kipirisis, Amphigenia, and Teleos, yeah, I think the P is kind of not pronounced maybe. Teleos and Helos, Dorion too, where once the Muses meeting Thamaris and Thracian, Tamaris the Thracian, one on his way from Oicalia from the visiting Eurystus, the Oicalian ended his singing. Pride had made him say he could out-sing the very Muses, daughters of Zeus, who bear the storm clouds for a shield. For this effort they blinded him, bereft him of his God-given song, and styled his harping. Stilled his harping. The countrymen of Pylos were commanded by Nestor of Gerenia, charioteer whose 90-decked ships lined the shore. Then came the troops who had their homes in Arcadia, under, I think that's pronounced Arcadia under Kylene Crag, close order fighters who lived around the tomb of Aipetos at Pheneos, and at the Orchomenos where there are many flocks, a Riffy too. at Strati, and in the windy town Inispe. Men of Tigi. Okay, that one's just funny. Tigi, that's your town? Tigi. And lovely Mantine. Men of Stimfellows and Pharhesi, all of whom were led by Agapenor, son of Anchios, and he commanded 60 ships. Arcadians able in war had thronged to go abroad, for the Lord Marshal Agamemnon lent those ships in which they crossed the wine-dark sea, as they had none nor knowledge of seafaring. So these people basically relied on Agamemnon when they wanted to join in on the war. I suppose that's fine. Next were the soldiers from Boprasian and gracious Elis, all the plain confined by Hermini and Mercinus, and by Alesian and the Olenian rock. These had 4 captains with 10 ships apiece, one with on which the Apeioi had embarked in throngs. Some served under Amphimachus and Talpios, grandsons of Actor, sons of Theatos, and of Eurytos. Powerful diaries. Amarinclides commanded others, and Polysianus led the 4th division, son of Agasthenes Augiades. Then came the islanders from Dolichion and the Achaenades, all those who dwelt opposite Elis over the open sea. Meges, their captain, Meges Phileides, begotten by the friend of Zeus, the horseman Phileus, who withdrew to Dolichion. In anger at his father long ago, 40 black ships had crossed the sea with Meges. Meges. I almost called him Mickey. Odysseus then commanded the brave men of Cephallenia, islanders of Ithaca and Neritos, whose lofty heights the sea wind ruffled, and the men of Crocylea, of Agylips, the rocky isle, and those of Samos and Zakynthos. Those are as well who held the mainland eastward of the islands. Odysseus, peer of Zeus in forethought, led them in 12 good ships with chic paint at the bows. I need to piss. I shall return. I return to thee as swift as the wind would allow. Because I really just had to piss. Like the tank was full, as some may say. Ah, heavens above. My neck. My neck needs a little crackling, a little snapping, a little twist. Where was I? Most likely here. Thoas, Andriamon's son, led the Aetolians, inhabitants of Pleuron, Elinos, Pylini, a seaside Chalkis, Calydon, of rocky mountain sides. Thoas, their leader, because the sons of Oeneus were no more. I guess they have perished by this point. And red-haired Melaugros too was dead. Oh, command of all had thus devolved on Thoas, and 40 black ships crossed the sea with him. Idomeneus, famed as a spear fighter, led the Cretans, all who came from Knossos, Gortyn, the town of many walls. There's a lot of towns that are known for having many walls. And Lyctos, Miletus, and Lecastos. Gleaming white Fiastos and Rhyton. Those pleasant towns, all from that island of 100 cities, served under Idomeneus, the great spearman, whose second in command, Meriones, fought like the slaughtering god of war himself. 80 black ships had crossed the sea with these. Tlepolemus, the son of Heracles, had led 9 ships from Rhodes, impetuous men, the Rhodians, in 3 regional divisions: Lindos, Eliosus, fuck, I cannot pronounce this one. Eliosus, and bright Camerios, serving under Tlepolemus. That's what it feels like at this point. Tlepolemus, the spearman, whose mother, Astyochea, had been taken by Heracles, who brought her from Iphyra out of the Celeis River Valley. Not Celes. Another funny name. And where he had plundered many noble towns. Oh. No sooner was Tlepolemus of age than he had killed his father's uncle, old Lycimenios, Alcmene's warrior brother. Oh. And fitting out his ships in haste, he sailed over the deep sea, taking many with him in flight from other descendants of Heracles. Wandering, suffering bitter days at sea, he came at last to Rhodes. The island, settled in townships, one for each of the 3 great clans, was loved by Zeus, ruler of gods and men, and wondrous riches he poured out upon them. Nereus had led 3 well-found ships from Cyme. Nereus, Aglaeus, child of Lord Caraphus, Nereus of all Danaans before Troy, most beautiful maid after Achilles, a feeble man, though with a small contingent. Little group. Then those of Nisvoros and Carpathos and Cassos and the island town of Kos, ruled by Eripelos, and the Calydni islands, ruled by Phaedippus and Antiphos, the sons of Thessalos, a son of Heracles. 30 longships in line belong to these. Tell me now, muse, of those from the great land called Argos, of Pelasgian, Pelasgian, who lived at Alos, at Alope, and at Trechis, and those of the how do you pronounce PTH? No, PHTH. What is that sound supposed to be? Phthia, those of Hellas, lands of lovely women. I like how that's just what Hellas is known for. It's just a land of lovely women. All those troops they called the Myrmidons and Hellenes and Achaeans, led by Achilles in their 50 ships, but these made no advancements now to battle, since he was not on hand to dress their line. No, the great runner Prince Achilles lay amid the ships in desolate rage, for Briseis, his girl, with her soft tresses, the prize he captured, fighting all the way from Lyrnessus after he stormed that town and stormed the walls of Thebes, overthrowing the spearmen Minis and Epistrophius, sons of Eunus, Salippiades. For her heart burned lying there, but soon the hour would come when he would rouse. Oh. Next were the men of Philake. Philake? Okay. And those who held Pyrrhasus, garden of Demeter, Eton, maternal town of grazing flocks, Antron beside the water, and the beds of meadow grass at Pteleus. All these were under Protesilaus' command, command when the intrepid fighter lived, but black earth held him under now, and grieving at Philake with lacerated cheeks, his bride was left, his house unfinished there. Plunging head from his longship to be first man ashore to Troy of all Achaeans, he had been brought down by a Dardan spear, but no means were his troops without a leader, though sorely missing him. They had Podarches. That is an unfortunate name. Podarches. It just sounds unfortunate, okay? Podarches, another soldier son of Iphiclos. Philoctetes, master of many flocks. Podarches, Protesilaus' blood brother. A younger man, less noble. But the troops were not at all in want of a commander, though in their hearts they missed the braver one. 40 black ships had sailed along with him. Next were the soldiers who had lived at Pherae, by the great lake, at Glaphyrai and Boibe? Boibe. Hey, Boibe. And in the well-kept city, Ialkos. Of their 11 ships, Admetus' son, Aumilos had command. The child conceived under Admetus by the splendid queen Alcestis, Peleus's most beautiful daughter, not dollar. My words are beginning to become intertwined. Next, those of Methone and Thaumache, of rugged Alizon and Meliboea. These and their 7 ships had been commanded at first by Philoctetes, the great archer. 50 oarsmen in every ship. They came as expected archers to the Trojan War. But he, their captain, lay on Lemnos Isle in anguish where the Achaeans had marooned him. Damn. Bearing the black wound of a deadly snake. He languished there, but soon beside the ships the Argives would remember and call him back. So they left him, and then they came back for him. Meanwhile, his men were not without a leader, though missing Philoctetes. Medon led them. Oileus' bastard son, conceived by Rene under Oileus, raider of cities. I see why the bastard son is a bastard son. Very well explained, a man raids cities. What did you expect him to do? Next were the men of Trike and Ithome. Trike and Ithome, that rocky terrace town, and Oikalia, the city of Erytus. Over these 2 sons of old Asclepios held command, both skilled in healing. Podalerius and Macaon. Macaon. 30 decked ships were theirs. Next were the soldiers of Arminius, and from the river source at Hyperia, those of Asterion, and those below Titanus's high snow-whitened peaks. Eurypylus, Aui, names Shining Sun led all of these, with 40 black ships under his command. How much more do we got? Oh my god! Okay, we're almost done with that list of soldiery. Almost. Then those who held Argissa and Gertoni, Orthe, Eloni, and the limestone city Oloson, led by a dauntless man, Polypotes, the son of Pirithous, whom Zeus the Undying fathered. Polypotes had been conceived by gentle Hippodamia under Pirithous. That day he whipped the shagging centaur of Pelion, drove them to the Aethekes. Polypotes, as a co-commander, had Leonteus, son of Coronus Cainides. 40 black ships had crossed the sea with these. Gauneus commanded 22 from Kyphos, the Aeneas, and the brave Paraboy served under him, all who had their homes. All who had their homes around Dodona in the wintry north and in the fertile vale of Titarissos. Lovely that gliding river that runs on into the Peneus with silver eddies and rides it for a while as clear as oil, a branch of Styx, on which great oaths are sworn. The Magnetes were led by Phrotos, Tenthryndon's son, by Pineos. They lived and round Mount Pelion's shimmering leafy sides. 40 black ships had come with Phrotos. These were the lords and captains of the Danaans. The Danaans. But tell me, Muse, of all the men and horses, who were the finest under Agamemnon? As for the battle horses, these were best that came from Pheres' pastures, and Eumelios drove those mares as fleet as birds, a team perfectly matched in color and in age. And lift to a hair across the cruppers. Apollo of the silver bow had bred them in Peri, as fearsome steeds of war. Of all the fighting men, most formidable was Aias Telamonius. That is, while great Achilles raged apart. Achilles towered above them all, so did the stallions that drew the son of Peleus in the war. But now, amid the slim sea-going ships, he lay alone and raged at Agamemnon's marshal of the army, and his people along the shore above the breaking waves, with discus, throw and javelin and archery sported away the time. Meanwhile, their teams beside the chariots tore and champed at clover and parsley from the marshes. The war cars, shrouded in canvas, rested in their shelters, and, longing for their chief, beloved in war, the Myrmidons, idly throughout the camp, drifted and took no part in the day's fighting. But now the march host devoured the plain as though it were a prairie fire. The ground beneath it rumbled, as when Zeus, the lord of lightning bolts, in anger at Typhoeus, lashes the earth around Aenarmus, with his tremendous couch is said to be. where his tremendous couch is said to be. Why has he got a couch there? What's he doing over there? That he needs a couch specifically for that location. I don't think this means like an actual... It might mean an actual couch. I'm not too sure. The thunderous groaned the earth. So thunderously groaned the earth under the trampling of their coming on, and they consumed like fire the open plain. Iris arrived now, running on the wind, as messenger from Zeus beyond the storm cloud, bearing the grim news to the men of Troy. They were assembled at the gates of Priam, young men and old, all gathered there. When she came near and stood to speak to them, her voice most like the voice of Priam's son Polites, forward observer of the Trojans. Trusting his prowess as a sprinter, he had held his post mid-plain atop the burial grounds of the patriarchs Aeetes, waiting there to see the Achaeans leave their camps and ships. In his guise, she who runs upon the wind, Iris now spoke to Priam. Yuki be postin'. Many emotes. For what reasons? Because Yuki feels joy, perhaps. Perhaps. Or maybe Yuki just loves war and is glad that the Trojans and the Achaeans and the millions of other characters that were mentioned... Oh, jumpies? Just jumpies? I suppose that's also fine. You may have excitement for the jumps. Or have the jumps for excitement, whichever comes first. Iris now spoke to Priam. Sir, old sir, would you indulge inordinate talk as always, just as in peacetime? Frontal war is upon us. Many a time I've borne a hand in combat, but never have I seen the enemy in such array, committed, every man uncountable as leaves or grain of sand, advancing on the city through the plain. Hector, you are the one I call on. Take action as I direct you. The allies that crowd the great town speak in many tongues of many scattered countries. Every company should get its orders from its own commander. Let him conduct the muster and the sortie. Hector punctiously obeyed the goddess, dismissed the assembly on her terms, and troops ran for their arms. All city gates wide open yawned, and the units poured out, foot soldiers, horse and chariots, with tremendous din. I love din. Rising in isolation on the plain in the face of Troy, there is a ridge, a bluff open on all sides. Briar Hill they call it. Why Briar Hill? You know what? This shall not be ever answered, I feel. Men do, that is. The immortals know the place to be the Amazon Myrene's tomb. Oh, that's why. Anchored on this, the Trojans and allies formed for battle. Tall with helmets flashing, Hector, great son of Priam, led the Trojans, largest of those divisions and the best, who drew up now and armed, and hefted spears. The Dardans were commanded by Aeneas, whom ravishing Aphrodite had conceived under Anchises in the vales of Ida, lying immortal in a man's embrace. His co-commanders were Antenor's sons, both battle-wise, Archilochus and Acamas. That felt weirdly easier to say than usual. Are we gonna go through a list of now the Trojan guys? Not again. First it was the invaders, now we're going through a list of all the other guys. I cannot be given peace. Then those of Zelia, the lower slope of Ida, Trojan men of means who drank the waters of Aesopus drank, and still they served under Lycaon's shining sun, Pandarus. Yes, Pandarus, whom Apollo taught the bow. Andristia's men, those of the hinterland of Apaisos, Pythia, the crag of Triria. All these Adristus led, with Amphius of the linen cuirass, both sons of Merops, Percosius, the seer profoundest of all seers. He had refused to let them take the path of war, man wasting war, but they were heedless of him, driven onward by dark powers of death. Damn. Dad said don't go, and they said, we're going. Anyways. Brave or stupid? Mostly stupid if your father is quite literally a seer, and he's like, don't do it, you dumbass. Or dumbasses in this case, and the dumbasses went anyways. Then too came those who lived around Percote, and at Praction, at Cestus and Abydos, and old Erispe. Asios their captain, Asios Hyrtacides, who drove great sorrel's horses from Silis River. I'm still just gonna call this Silis River because that's what it feels like it reads like. Asbestos. I would not be surprised if one's name was just Asbestos at this point. Hippatos led the tough Pelasgians from Larissa's rich plowland. Hephaestus and the younger soldier Pilaos, both sons of the Pelasgian Lestos, Teutamides. Then Thracians from beyond the strait, all those from Hellas, rushing water bounded there. Acamas led, and the veteran Peiros, son of Trosenus Ceades. Euphemos led the Cicones from their distant shore, and those more distant archers, Paeones. I need to take a breath. Holy, my throat's beginning to hurt a little bit. Paeones, Pyraechmes led from Amydon, from Axios, bemiroaring all the plain. The Paphlagonians followed Pylaemenes, shaggy, grey-hearted from the wild mule country of the Anatoi, men who held Kytoros and Sisamos and had their famous homes on the Parthenius riverbanks at Chroma, Aigiolos, and lofty Erythenoi. Odius and Epistrophus were captains of Haliosines from Alibi, far eastward where the mines of silver are. The Mysians Chromis led, with Ennomus, reader of bird flight signs in flurrying wings, would never save him from the last dark wave when he went down before the battering hands of the great runner Achilles in the river with other Trojans slain. Okay, so Ennomus is dead, I guess. And the Phrygians were under Parcis and Ascinios, from distant Ascinae, ready fighters. The Lydians then, Meones had for leaders Mystiles and Antiphos. These were the sons born by Gygae, Gygae Lake to Telemenes. They led men bred in vales under Mount Tmolos, Nastes. Nastes commanded Curians in their own tongue, men of Miletos, Ptiron's lefty ridge, Miliandros, rills and peaks of Mycale, all these Amphimachus and Nastes led. Namions, shining children, wearing gold blithe as a girl. Nastes had gone to war, but gold would not avail the fool to save him from a bloody end. Achilles Aikides would down him in the river, taking his golden ornaments for spoil. They straight up just said he looks like a girl. Okay, I guess. Serpedon led the Lycians and probably Lycians, not Lycians. Lycians with Glaucus from Lycia, afar from whirling Xanthos. Goodness gracious, ladies and gentlemen. I believe we will stop here for today. That was much reading, and not a lot necessarily happened in that second book. And my throat is very much hurting. Not that much. I'm exaggerating. I am a bitch, some might say, when it comes to pain. So forgive me, but throat hurty a little, and I wish for it to not hurty a little. I wish for it to not hurty at all, actually. Believe it or not, kindred of mine. Pain? Me not like it. But interesting, because both sides are preparing for war, and we were given a list of people that I will not remember. Gods be damned, I will not remember most of their names. I will remember the main characters, that is all. And if they beg of me to remember more, goodness gracious, I don't know. I simply do not know. But we'll actually be continuing this because, hey, I actually am enjoying myself. I am enjoying the story. I don't know about you all, but I am liking it, even if it's killing my throat a little. I shall bid thee farewell, my kindred. I hope you all have a great rest of your mornings, afternoons, evenings, and nights, wherever and whenever you are. May the gods bless you, may the stars shine in your honor. And as for what we shall do tomorrow, we'll probably play Daggerfall. Probably. As for the rest of the week, I'll just have to figure it out. Take care of yourself, lovelies. Bye-bye.